My name is Kellie Walsh, and I'm the founder of the Divine Hive, which is a platform for creating community. We have weekly meditations. We work on workshops with other healers, and just to create that tribe and help with, our own ascension, answering our own questions, and helping other people be empowered. And I'm also a professional photographer, and I've been doing that my entire life. I actually do soul portraits, which is a combination of the two worlds, which I love. So that's me.
Thank you. Fereshta?
Yeah, so I am Fereshta Ramsey. I am a singer-songwriter. I love that you brought in your other world, and have studied shadow work for about 20 years. And I've also been studying the deeper psychology of intimate relationships as it relates to our attachments, our triggers, our blueprints, and how we do relationships. So.
Love it. And I am Kelly Campbell. I don't even know what I want to say. I am a transformation coach to creative leaders who are looking to just learn a little bit more about who they are and how they are as leaders and how they impact other people. I am a painter, an artist, an aspiring, really terrible guitar player at the moment, but still aspiring, and a writer, also trying to just use my voice a little bit more. So
excellent. Well said.
So along those lines, I'm going to start off this episode with reading from one of the many books that Pixie Lighthorse has written. This one in particular is called Prayers of Honoring Grief. And this particular passage or prayer is called Honoring Essence. And I think it's a really nice foundation or a really nice entry for what we're going to talk about today, which is going to be led by Kelly. We're going to talk about the tree of life and the new human. So we're going to get into some stuff here. So again, I always invite you, if you feel called, you can close your eyes as I'm reading this and just let it sink in and seep in. Honoring essence. Thank you for the indispensable qualities I'm learning to love about myself as I allow myself to heal. Help me remember that feeling needn't compete with my being and doing states. Help me to cherish who I am as one who feels. Prevent me from using my sensitivity to shield me from others. Who am I without the pollution of my disregarded injuries? Help me find out what is under all of this protective armor. Lead me to everything that will help me discover the sacred nature of my potentiality. Help me strengthen my competence by keeping my system in good working order. Repeat in me the need to flush my wounds and seek right medicine. I am open to honoring and receiving help from unseen sources. Help me value virtues unassociated with my vocation. Help me know myself for more than what the world applauds me for. Help me identify as one with an unmasked heart. Uncloak my most passionate desires to love life. And when the allure of returning to old ways of stuffing and stashing appear, let me think of my body as a canyon containing the river I hold most dear. Remind me of its need to flow freely and not become dammed up. Let me imagine my river being honored fully, sparkling and clear, apparent with geological evidence of what has happened and uncontaminated by the debris of neglect. Emphasize transparency in my thinking, responsibility in my actions, and translucence in my being. Distill my ideas to bring about greater understanding for humanity and regard for precious life. Concentrate my unique talents and help me put them to good use.
Thank you, Kelly. That's so beautiful.
I love her so much.
I know. I'm going to have to get those books because every time I hear you, I hear them from you. It's just, really resonates. I mean, I love that you chose that poem because of the who am I? Because as we segue into the tree of life, and I've studied it with my teachers through the chakra systems, but I explored with the Kabbalah, and I was very curious about the Kabbalah and how it corresponds with the 7 or 8 major chakras in the body, and also the chakras like the link in your knees, the earth chakra that goes into the earth, and the ones above you. So, as you start to look at the diagram of the Kabbalah and the chakras, you'll see the patterns that are very similar. But what I love, and I want to share with you, with that, because the Kabbalah means to receive knowledge and illumination by asking the right questions. So one of the many questions that we ask ourselves, because the knowledge is always within, is who am I? What are my gifts? And where am I going? I mean, those are kind of the basic questions that we start to ask ourselves as we open up into the spiritual ascension process.
Yeah, it's so amazing that you're saying exactly this, because those 3 questions and maybe a couple of other ones were the exact questions that led me to realize that I couldn't answer them. And that was like the precipice of my own sort of spiritual awakening. I was like, but I want to answer these. I want to be able to have answers, and I don't. And it feels uncomfortable, and I want that.
Especially the question, where am I going? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's such a, I was, sometimes, I've studied with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he often says, what would your future self tell to your present self? Like, and I kind of love that. Like, where am I going, and what are my gifts?
Kelly, I'm loving that too. I'm thinking of Rilke, where he would say, like, live the question until one day you can live into the answer.
That's beautiful.
That's the spiritual path I'm hearing you sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all so powerful. These questions that we ask ourselves, and questions of people like that, that we read about, they just kind of, don't they just tap in and they just hit a little spark within yourself, right? It's like that questioning is the beginning of the journey, really.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
And I think these questions expand our consciousness. Well, I think we all agree with that, allowing us to truly claim who we are and our divine power. And that is truly the alchemic process of transformation, or transmutation, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was looking through and I was kind of studying, because I don't know much about the Kabbalah or Kabbalah, I've heard it said both ways, but I was very, all of a sudden when I was digging deep into it, I'm like, wow, I love some of the things that they describe about their past. And basically there's 10, and I'll show you the diagram right here. Here you go. See?
You hold it up. Yeah, there you go.
So there's these 10 circles, and they call them mirrors, that move from the top to the bottom. And what they believe is the divine, the source, is such a bright light power of infinite frequencies that it's like a laser, and it's so bright that it has to actually go through these mirrors to diffuse and filter out and bring that intense light and frequency into a lower frequency, which is the 3-dimensional world we are, the physicality of us in this human life.
Is that because it would be too intense if we were to try to receive it all at once without it going through that filtering process?
Yes, that's what they do believe. It's like they have to go through this. It's just too intense. Because for us to be in this physical world, we have to lower that frequency. And they believe it's like as above and below. Manifestation does not come from below in the physical. It comes from above, filtering through these mirrors into this physicality. And they call this realm of physicality magic, like the land of magic. So it's not like, they're not saying it's a bad thing, but it's where we take these lofty, spiritual, creative impulses, we bring them through into this physical world, that we can be practical and creative and begin to ascend the Jacob's ladder. So
that's the diagram that you're talking about.
So the Melhuth is the bottom one, which is the physical world, which represents the practicality of life. It's the personality, emotions. It's the realm of magic. And then these 3 right here, 7, 8, and 9, this lower triad corresponds to the lower chakras in your body. And they represent you know, with the chakras, the first one is your family, ancestral, protection, connected to the earth. The second one, the sacral, is water, fluid, sexuality, joy for life. The third is your solar plex, which is the sun, which is often where your inner child lies. It's that, you know, that will, that passion for life. You know, it's the sun. It's your as they say in martial arts, it's your ki, you know, your chi and all that. It just kind of comes
Your
up.
life force.
Your life force, exactly.
Yeah. With my Buddhist psychology coach, we were having a session earlier today, and we were talking specifically about that whole realm, and she calls it the ground of being.
Oh, I love
And
that.
so where you're talking about that, you know, that sacred sexuality, that fluidity, that's where all the water is, that's where all the power is, that's
Exactly.
where, you know, it's so interesting. And that also kind of dovetails a little bit with what we talked about in the last episode, which is that's where all the feminine aspects are, right? That the emotion, the fluidity, that power, that divine power.
Exactly. And I always, in my for my own personal beliefs and what I feel visually when I feel those lower chakras, the sun and the heat and the water from the lower ones, I feel like it makes that steam. It like makes that ether. That you know, for me visually, that's how I feel it. I feel it moving into my heart.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I also wanted to say, I was relating to the that center, that area, as there's an Eastern saying of like the voice of the heart before the mind.
Right.
Translation, but that place before we get up here.
Right. Exactly.
And also that magic, I love hearing the 3D world being considered the magical realm, because it often gets a bias that's a little more.
It does, yeah. I mean, they do talk of the earth realm, which we're, you know, which is, we're not really connected to that as much. It's more above that a little bit. So it's the area that we are practical, that we are creative, that we live, you know, and it can be a realm of magic, you know, and I love that. So too. And, you know, and they do say though, as well as in chakras, they can get misaligned. These mirrors, these spheres of light, they can also get dirty or, you know, have
unclean.
Yeah. So in the Kabbalah, they have two ways of moving up that Jacob's ladder. And one is called the path of the flaming sword. And the other one is the lightning bolt sequence. You know, I don't know enough about those, but I just wanted to mention them because I think they're beautiful, again, visuals and metaphors of that, you know, that flaming sword. I always think of Michael, Archangel Michael with the sword, and that we, you know, we do, you know, if we live in this realm of magic, and that we can manifest instantly when there's a flow from above to below. So again, one is not, in our case, is being in a three-dimensional form. One is not always better than the other. It's you know, it's a ebb and flow. It's a relationship.
It's a dance.
It's a dance. Yeah.
It's a dance.
Kelly, I'm curious, as a coach, you know, I often have clients who have a sense of like, I'll believe it when I see it. And we always have to navigate very gently into, no, you know, you'll see
you're
it
right.
when you believe it. Right? But that's a real paradigm shift for a lot of people.
It is. And that comes from trusting, right? Trusting who you are as a divine sovereign being. And I talk a lot about that, about manifestation, you know, about, you know, it's like, you know, a lot of people, we're taught in this world to go and to achieve and to do. But when you're in the complete state of flowing through the sacred channel, the feminine channel, through these, and the Kabbalah, through these mirrors, these spheres of light, through the chakras, we don't really have to do anything, right?
Yeah. I'm laughing because I literally had two things that happened in the last, like literally the last like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Or 20 hours, whatever it was. Less than 24, let's put it that way. Two big things that I was like, I put something out there and like immediately received it. And it was just a thought. It was like a thought or an intention or something. And it was like, boom, one thing and landed in my mailbox and another thing landed in my inbox. And I was like,
yes,
that is like, whoo, it's happening. Like,
yes,
fast.
Yes. And they do say that, you know, as you open up more and more to that flow, it becomes instant like that. Like
instant.
manifestation can be like you know, a thought, an idea, and then maybe 2 or 3 days it happens. But as you start to trust the process, you know, and not like believe it when it happens, because that's completely backwards,
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
making me wonder too, the sense of, does it mean you're an energetic match, right? That's what I'm wondering. It's like, if you're thinking it and then it's called in, is there that magnetics of, you know,
I do believe there's a bit of that, yes. And I also think gratitude is a huge, huge way of manifesting and bringing things in. If you can, when you are in the frequency of gratitude and love within your heart, that manifestation, you will find that energetic match. Again, to help you for asking you those questions, going back to those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? What are my gifts? And
Yeah.
where am I going?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, because I think we've been programmed to do, and, you know, I'll believe it when I see it, and, you know, prove to me, or, you know, the glass is half empty. We do need to change the prism around our own eyes, you know, take those glasses off and clean them up and understand, you know,
Yeah.
that we can
Do
see
you
the world in a different
do you
way.
do you think you could like boil it down to the difference between like scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset? Do you think it could be that simple? Or
Yeah, I do.
is that oversimplifying it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think things are so complicated. I think us humans make things complicated, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, we overcomplicate everything.
I think it is switching from a lack of mentality, which is fear-based, which is how we live our life,
Yeah.
which is connected to the personality that is connected to the ego, right? Another thing, you know, speaking about personality, the Kabbalah defines personality as learned behaviors and coping mechanisms that we have programmed in life.
So that's interesting. That
Our
ties into
masks
the
that we are,
shadow work then.
yeah, exactly. And we're going to go into the shadow work, which is going to be your girl.
it all
And
ties
it's the mask that we wear, you know, you know, and they believe that the true self is our individuality based on our divine essence, you know. So we all wear these masks that are based on fear and ego and the personality, how the personality is defined here, you know,
This is making
programmed
so much,
habit. Huh?
yeah. Sorry, this is making so much sense to me from an attachment theory perspective.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh yeah. Well, the next thing I am going to go into is attachments, but yes.
yeah, it's making a lot of sense in the sense of, you know, these well-intended, hopefully, guardians. You know, when you say you have this dream, they say, oh, well, how are you going to make that happen?
Mm.
Right? That already puts a wedge, in my opinion, to the magic, when it's like, you've got to figure out the cursed hows before you can have it, is not the same as like this flow you're discussing.
Mm. No, you're absolutely right. You know, and I think that, you know, I think it does take, you know, those asking those early questions and keep asking those questions on each state of your ascension or
Yeah.
your spiritual, you know, exploration, you know,
Yeah.
of who you are, you know, and tapping in that, you know, understanding that we are more than our bodies, you know, we're more than the physicality of this world.
And honestly, we're more than the stories that were created for us. Talk about the personality that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to answer the question or try to answer the question of who am I 4 years ago,
Yeah.
my answer would be based on the personality that was created between 0 and 7, which actually is not my true personality at
Which
all.
is actually relates to the first chakra, by the way, and those memories stored, and the trauma are stored in those lower
Yeah.
chakras and in the lower, I think it's Hud and Nazik is the way, and Taferet, which is the beginning of the very top, moving into more of the heart chakra, above those lower triads. Lower triads right here. Lower triads, and then the hair right here. This is the inner child and the beauty. And actually, what's interesting about this, it's also sacred masculine and sacred feminine, where you start to balance as you go up, power with love and mercy. You know, so you keep moving up from the bottom up. So I find that very interesting. And then it talks a lot about attachment. And then you were talking about attachment theory. It's like another question is that you want to start asking yourself when you want to go deep, when the ascension awakens, as they say, the whole tree. It says, what would you want the vision of your life and your world to look like? Right? And what would your life look like if you were living your true potential? These are more questions, because the Kabbalah wants you to ask questions of yourself in your life.
It's like curiosity, right?
And
Like
exploration.
exploration.
Yeah.
And it's super juicy to me, because I think that
Juicy.
0 to 7, Kelly, that you were discussing.
What's that?
I said the 0 to 7
Yeah,
age
yeah.
is so much introjection. It's so much people injecting their values.
Exactly.
And you being a sponge and not having that filtration system yet.
Yeah.
And so when you start going into, is that mine? Right? Is that even mine?
Yeah, that's the
Exactly.
question I ask all the time.
I
Do
know.
I want it to be mine? Right? Because maybe it is yours, but it's not something you need anymore, that it's not going to serve you anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And, you know, they talk about removing that attachment. And we talk about that a lot in removing attachments. And, you know, the word that attachments that are no longer serving the vision of who we want to be. Right. And then another question is, who's pulling my energy and where do I give my power away? These are all questions, you know, as you go up the ladder, that you'll start from the first question, who am I? You know?
Love that.
I like the idea of asking the question at different points in the ascension process also, because
I
the
think so
answers
too.
do change. They
They
definitely
do.
change. And I don't know what the time frame is. Like if I had to look over the last 4 years, I would say that the answers probably change about every 6 months. Now the answers are probably changing every 3 months.
Yeah. And I think it's very individually based, you know, I think.
Yeah, that's just my experience.
I mean, you know, when you have when you start asking these questions, and the next step is really asking yourself, there's phases that you go in, and you talked about it, you know, where the second phase, which I was thinking about you, Kelly, is that the first phase is asking this, why am I this way? And then how do I heal this inner child with the attachments as we go back, with the distortions, the hurts, the traumas, right? So when we sat asking those questions to explore the reason and the meaning behind, and then understanding our true gifts and our power as sovereign beings, as we move up the ladder and we come to like what they call in the Kabbalah the second phase, which is sacrifice. Right? And sacrifice is letting go of the lesser for the greater.
So is that like dissociating from certain things, like letting them bubble up so that they can be healed, and so that it allows for more room for your potentiality? Or what do you mean by sacrifice, if that's not right?
Sacrificing means as you start to move up and ask yourself these questions, and you're moving up and becoming that new human through the ascension process, letting go of relationships that no longer serve you, letting go of friendships or jobs or situations that no longer serve you, that are maybe associated with those attachments that you used to have. And then letting go of those things, it does open up space within you, Kelly, to answer that. So I think it's both. You know, you start by letting go and having the being courageous to let go of relationships, jobs, situations, toxic people that want to remind you of the mask that you used to wear.
Yeah, in shadow work, we would call it chronic roles, like just chronic roles you've had with people in your life, those toxic friendships you allow, the job.
Right, because like Alan Watts says, that they remind you who you are. So those people keep trying to remind you who you are, and you don't want to be that person.
Or who you used to be.
Who you used to be, because yes, exactly.
Well, and the brain likes to collect that evidence, you know, the ego anyway, likes to collect evidence that solidifies who you are. But if it's coming from what would be considered your strategic north and not your true north,
I love that.
Your whole life, you could believe you are that distorted, adaptive person from your whole childhood. That's the mask, right? The magnetic north of like, here's who I have to be accepted and belong.
Exactly.
Here's who I am and my allegiance. Like, there's a great quote that said, I would rather have the whole world against me than my soul.
I love that. And I love what you said. I never heard that before. strategic north and true north. I never heard that expression. I love that, and it really kind of resonates with me. It's where I am in my life, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
In those situations, though, do you feel like you're almost like seeking or putting yourself in situations that bring like a confirmation bias into your life, where you're kind of like attracting either jobs or relationships or friendships or people that are almost like you're pulling them into your life subconsciously or unconsciously in order to confirm that old story?
Sure. I mean, I think so, don't you?
I feel like we do that. We
I think we do that, and that
We
has
do
to
that until we're ready to not do that anymore.
until we do the
We're in
shadow
that
work.
if we're in that victim story, we're going to collect evidence for that victim
Exactly,
Yeah.
because we have to prove ourselves right.
Yeah.
No matter what, the right might be not the right, but we have to prove it where we are in our, process. So yes,
Yeah.
we'll bring in the people, the jobs, the situations to say, oh yes, I am that person, when, our truth might not be that.
Right. And
Psyche knows
Huh?
some part of the psyche that's like, I know who the soul here is.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And two, it's like, going through that Teferath, the sixth mirror, it always asks you, why am I this way? And that kind of helps us look at that inner child and those hurts. And the law of reflection, which is why do people come into our life reflecting who we think we are, to reinforce that we're right, that yes, I am this person, I am this wounded person, I've always been abandoned, I'm always going to be abandoned, so it's kind of, they want you to ask, why am I this way? So I think it's beautiful. And then it goes into the third phase, and then we'll get into what's called the abyss, which is the shadow work. The third phase is self-leadership and having nobility in our life. And then the fourth is devotion to the great work, which I love that saying, and meaning that we reclaim our divinity of our greatest self, and then it now becomes a way of life. Right?
Yeah.
So
that's when you're living in flow. Right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I resonate with that word devotion too, because
Devotion to the great.
Days with devotion, it's a different energy. It's devotion to your purpose, to your partner, to the earth. Like there's a reverence in that word to me.
I love that, devotion to the great work. I just when I heard it, when I was listening to some tapes earlier, I'm like, wow, I just love that, because it is the great work. We're here to do the great work.
Yeah, I look at things like that, like when you ask a question like, well, what is my purpose, right? Like, I feel like purpose is sort of this triumvirate. It's like, I'm here to be the best version of myself. I'm here to be in relationship with others and help them, maybe give them permission or inspire them to be their best selves. And then either individually and or together, we're here to help the world in some way, whether that's people, planet, environment, whatever the situation is. And so there's like this, juicy is like your favorite word, Fereshta, so I use that. But there's something super like delicious about that, like, yes, it's for me, yes, it's for you, and yes, it's for all of us. It goes back to this concept of oneness.
Exactly.
If that's, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know if you can simplify it to this level, but like, is that everyone's purpose at the core of it? Like, does it come down to that?
I do think so. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it feels good to me, the idea of if I'm living in alignment with my highest values and doing what is most meaningful to me, right? And that's still its own self-liberation process. That's still my path. And then I can help someone else find out what their highest values are and live their most meaningful way.
Exactly.
That's
I love that.
Awesome.
I do. Like in my meditation that I did on Wednesday, and we kind of went in and tried to do some shadow work within our heart. And the message that I kept getting and sharing was, the only thing we need to do is to shine, and to shine our truth, and then see the truth in others. and then we can find the truth of the world. We can create that new world, the new human, right? So really, you strip away everything, if you can do the work through the Kabbalah or through chakra or shadow work or any tools that you have, so you can shine, then that's all. It makes life so much easier. It takes the pressure off, you know. You know what I mean? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to shine the love of God and see my truth and see the truth in others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very and then you can empower others, you know, to do the same, like ripples in the great current of
I was saying, I think that's the ideal. I think what I experience often is people who absolutely have radiant light and who are, it's buried under a lot of emotional debris,
yeah.
right? So not to belabor the point of like doing that work, but that yes, it's there, and that's probably what's led them to someone like me or to a coach. And like, if I was to say to them, just shine your light, they might not even know where to go yet. Like,
No, well, you know,
Right.
that's you know, devotion to the great work. That is after asking yourself all those questions. You know, we all have the lights. We all shine the light, but it's understanding that, you know, moving past that inner child and the old wounds and understanding the light is the light is ours, you know, not to shine to get the approval of the other, you know, not to shine, you know, for advancement, but to, you know, just to shine, to be your true self.
Just to shine.
So that is the work. It's like, you know, and I think you're right. People that have that innate sense of being connected to their heart and that shiningness, they probably do have a lot of emotional debris that they need to work through. But don't you think that if we reincarnate and incarnate into these physical, I do feel that we choose our bodies, we choose our ancestral lineage, we choose our DNA lineage. And I believe that by that, if we had these experiences from age 0 to 7 that try to define us, to create the mask that we were trying to wear for the rest of our lives, I feel like we chose that for the ultimate opportunity to shine no matter what.
Yeah.
To move that debris away.
I believe that.
It is possible to move the debris away, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
it's not easy.
It sometimes feels like unearthing to me.
Yes.
It's almost like whatever treasures you have, you bury through those 0 to 7, maybe even 0 to 18. You bury them being like, those are sacred. I'm protecting those. I'm going to bury them somewhere. And then you forget where you put them. But you know, you don't feel quite complete.
Yeah.
And you know, you are a complete whole being. So it's like, where are those, what's missing? And when people unearth those pieces and heal whatever judgment was placed upon them, there's like allegiance to the soul there. There's real sovereignty in that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Allegiance to the soul. That's beautiful. You know, but I do think you can shine and have that, but also feel separated from source. I do believe you can experience both. And I think, again, it's moving up to Jacob's ladder and getting to what you do with shadow work. In the Kabbalah, they call shadow work going through the abyss. So, you know.
That's accurate.
Yeah, and that's, you know, where you have to, doing the shadow work, you know more than anyone, face our fear with that divine love, strength, and courage. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that there's layers to it. You know, like you have, and what I mean by that, I want to try to be a little bit more practical, so we're not always in like the vague realms here. But you have this idea or this calling or something inside of you that's like, something's not right. I don't know what I need. I don't know what's wrong. I just know something's not right.
There's that calling,
right? There's like a feeling. Then you sort of like try to feel into like, well, where do I go? Where do I start? Who could I resource from? Who might I want to work with? Who could I talk to about this? Right. So maybe you dabble in a little bit of that. Then maybe you find somebody that's like a coach, right? Then you start to like just scratch the surface and you're like, whew, this is a lot. And so you stay on the surface a little while and then you're like, okay, I cleared a little bit out, like the topsoil got cleared out. I think I'm ready to go a little deeper, right? And then it just becomes this like unearthing of layers and layers. And like, sometimes you hit sand and it's a little easier to dig. And sometimes you're hitting like bedrock and it's like, oh my God, the shovel is not going to go in. And then
the shovel, we're going to need a bigger shovel.
you're going to need a stronger shovel. Yeah. And then I think at some point, like multiple layers down, you're just like in it. And my mantra now is like, give me a fucking shovel. Like, I'm ready, you know, like, let's just get into it. Cause I think it's like, it goes through these like phases. And I don't know if this is just my experience or you guys feel this way too, but it's like, there are phases of sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy. Sometimes I want to stop. Sometimes I want to keep going. And I have this like oscillation between it, but I feel like, and maybe it's temporary, but right now I'm like, just give me a shovel. Just keep a shovel in my hand at all times. Like, I'm really okay with that. And I'm like excited about it.
Kelly, I think it's you're in that confidence competence loop, right? You did a little, you got a little more competent. That gives you confidence to try a little more. And that loop becomes this place where it's like, you now have your back, you know, you can handle riding those waves, digging a little deeper. I can't say it's any easier, but I think it's our own trust and willingness.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's really interesting. It's like such interesting work.
I know. So I do want to show you this diagram as well. Can you see it? This is the tree of life of the Kabbalah. It corresponds with the chakras on the
Beautiful.
the body. And Kelly, I think this should be your next tattoo.
Maybe,
and,
you never know.
And then it is within the flower of life, which is creation, with sacred geometry. It's also within the center of that.
I love that. I love that.
It's beautiful.
That's interesting. Speaking about tattoos and that, the tree of life is actually either that or some other sacred geometry, like the Fibonacci sequence. That's going to be like the last part of
that's cool.
My sleeve. Yeah.
Excellent. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I know we're running up against a little bit of time here, but do you want to close out by saying anything or leaving people with a little nugget to chew on until next time?
Me, Kelly, yes.
Both of you.
First, can you go for us? Do you have anything to say?
I'm just so appreciating this conversation because, again, all these different disciplines seem to be like little
converging, right?
To the same rhythm for me, and it makes me very excited to get another language, another concept. And for me, the biggest piece, when you talk about the mask, and I hear that as that strategic north, and I see so many people, when they get their compass back to true north, that light is evident for them. Like that light is evident to me from the first day, but people have to find that for themselves. So I love this concept of like the magical realm of earth. That makes me more excited about earth.
I know, right? And because as they say that, we ascend with our bodies. It's like, people think the ascension process, all of us that have been doing the work, is we're going to disappear, or there'll be a separate new earth and we're going to live in a separate new earth. But no, it's like, it is bringing the body with us. It's this magic realm of this physicality, but just allowing ourselves and the earth to vibrate at a higher frequency now. Maybe we don't need these mirrors anymore. Maybe we can take the laser of the divine. Maybe we become the new human, finding the space within our organs, our cells, our bones, our DNA, and we can now be the tree of life. In my meditations, we are always the tree of life. We connect to the Mother Earth and we connect to the cosmos, and we are the tree of life.
Yeah. I love the idea of being the bridge in the middle that's rooted in the earth. I mean, if you think about it in the context of us being so akin to trees, we do receive, right? Like we receive just like a plant or a tree receives the sunlight. Like we receive that. And for me, that sometimes that actually comes in through the top of my head or even just like sunshine on my face. And I actually feel it almost like God presence is the best way I can describe it. It feels
Bliss.
like your heart, it's blissful, and
It's like bliss.
opens your heart up and you just feel like, oh my God, everything I look at, I just love.
Yes.
And I'm still walking around, like I'm still present, I'm still conscious, but that's what it feels like inside.
I know, it's beautiful.
And
it's
we're
like,
also rooted into the ground. So we're like this bridge. And so I don't think that we're that different from trees
no, not at all. We are
at
the bridge.
all.
We are the bridge. And, they say as is above is below, which is, an alchemic um, term. And it means that we receive the energy from the divine, from the singular source, but we also receive from the Mother Earth. So as below and as above as below. And we, I maybe the true north becomes the heart center, as we bring these energies from above and below, so
Yeah.
I love that. And I do love trees too. And I just love that. And I love just seeing the visual of our hands up as great limbs, kind of, all the creating with
And all the
chalice.
branches.
Yes.
Yep.
Become
All right,
the
well,
new human,
the
right?
new human. Yeah. Well, this was really fun. We'll post this episode 3 and look forward to chatting with everyone next time.
All right.
All right.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Bye.